E911 Talk Podcast, Episode 72, for Monday, February 20th, 2012.
Welcome to this edition of E911 Talk with your host, Mark Fletcher, product line manager for emergency services at Avaya. Now, here's Fletch.
This past Friday on February 17th, the U.S. Congress voted and passed a bill known as HR3630, titled the Middle Class Tax Relief and Job Creation Act of 2012 by a vote of 60 to 36. Sure, tax relief to the middle class is certainly a nice thing, but why is it news in a podcast and blog that's focused around E911 and NG911? Well, it seems that a commonly used tactic was used in this bill called rider legislation. You see, riders are effective when they're attached to an important bill, such as middle-class tax relief and job creation, because a veto or postponement of that bill could delay funding to important government programs or cause serious damage politically in an election year. H.R. 3630 had such a rider, and on page 214 of the bill, Subtitle E was listed as the Next Generation 911 Advancement Act of 2012. So what does this do? Well, in simple terms, it puts NG911 officially on the books. In Section 6502 under definitions, multi-line telephone systems, or MLTS, was included following the common definition used by NENA that includes the control units, telephone sets, and adjunct systems. It also covers both hosted and premise-based systems, as well as Centrex, VoIP, PBX, hybrid, and key telephone systems that are defined under Part 68. So that gives you the wide applicability. The bill also continues with a discussion on the implementation of an IP backbone network, what we've been referring to as an ESI net, and calls for regulatory action within 120 days after the date of enactment. Section 6504 on page 227 defines the, quote, requirements for multi-line telephone systems, unquote. Now, this is an important part of the legislation, as the NG911 pessimists have been pointing out that MLTS and PBX have never been part of Next Gen 911. But now, within 90 days of the enactment of this act, the Commission will issue a public notice seeking comment on the feasibility of including NG911 within all systems manufactured after a specific date, or other mechanisms to provide a sufficiently precise indication of a 911 caller's location, while avoiding the imposition of undue burdens on MLTS manufacturers, providers, and operators. If you want a good example of how that might be done, be sure to check out my recent webinar. It's posted on YouTube. Enterprise E911 Made Simple. Several years ago now, I had the honor of being a key author with several of my colleagues on the National Emergency Number Association's Technical Requirements Document on Model Legislation E911 for MLTS, NENA 06-750 version 2. Now, under the aforementioned public notice, the Commission is also going to seek comment on that document. So will NG911 in the enterprise happen tomorrow? No, not likely. But I finally get to use one of my favorite words and say that as soon as President Obama signs HR 3630 into law, which is expected to be in the next couple of days, NG911 and its applicability to MLTS will officially be promulgated. Look it up. It's a pretty cool word.
You've been listening to the E911 Talk Podcast with your host, Mark Fletcher, product line manager for emergency services at Avaya. E911 Talk is a weekly podcast available on sites like this, as well as iTunes, and is available free of charge. If you have any comments or questions, you can email Fletch at fletcherm@avaya.com. That's Fletcher, the letter M, at avaya.com. Be sure to listen in next week for more informative topics on E911.